Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Garth, Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco, and you're listening to the Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast series. Follow along as I interview the best and brightest leaders in the insurance industry and insurtech landscape to bring you the latest in digital transformation, innovation, industry trends, challenges, and opportunities, as well as next-gen technologies. We use our experience to anticipate what's next without losing sight of what's now. Stay tuned to find out your next now. Welcome, everybody, to the Future of Insurance podcast series. I'm thrilled to have Adam Elster, our CEO at Majesco, joining us today. What we're going to be talking about is one of the fundamental things that insurance companies who are looking to transform their business need to really think about, and that is thinking about saying no to the old legacy ways of doing business and the old ways of leveraging technology. So I'm going to send this over to Adam, and he's going to do an intro here.
So Nancy Reagan in 1980 was credited with starting a campaign called Just Say No. And the idea of this campaign started when she was doing a town hall with young students, and they were asked how to respond when people tempt them about drugs. And she said, just say no. And it obviously took off worldwide, became a much bigger campaign. But in the heart of the matter of just saying no, and as much as it was about children and drugs and all of that, it was really at another level all about peer pressure within young people. So my argument is, in the insurance industry and with technology, we have a very serious problem around just saying no. Whenever I meet with customers and we talk about the opportunity with technology and automation and AI and all these capabilities, it seems to really almost go against things that I hear from these companies, which is, as much as they want out-of-the-box software, they're struggling because they've been running a business for years. It's very unique. Many of them consider their business to have a secret sauce that's been embedded in both their operating model and their systems for years and years. And no one is willing to put at risk existing business to change process, to change the way they do things, because they're afraid of saying no to customers who want unique things that they could cover in unique ways. But the balance with that is it's near impossible then to create technology with ultimate flexibilities to allow anyone to do anything. The promises of technologies are wonderful, but there is a very challenging place where my technology, we can often say, can do anything. But that's a big problem, because as soon as you say you can do anything and you do anything, it limits your ability to be flexible, to be faster speed to market, and to do upgrades and lower your cost and to drive automation long term. So just saying no is a very difficult thing within the insurance industry. And I think it's probably been one of the biggest challenges to why many systems and businesses that were operated a certain way years ago are facing difficulty moving into a modern world. And many new projects with technology are more focused on launching new products than dealing with the iceberg below the water on legacy system and how they've been running the business. So Denise and I talk about this all the time. So Denise, give us your perspective on why that's such a difficult cultural and technology challenge for the industry right now.
So I think there's like 2 or 3 reasons for that, Adam. I think first and foremost, you and I talk about this all the time. Insurance is in the business of minimizing risk. We're really risk adverse. And that's really part of our DNA. And it really restrains change a lot of times, including optimization and innovation. And so what happens when we're looking at bringing in new technology, we're looking at just ripping out the old and putting in the new, and we bring forward all of these old legacy business practices and processes and thinking. And quite honestly, that's a risk in itself for the organization, because it doesn't allow, to your point, allow people to really leverage this new technology and all the innovations that might come through upgrades and updates to the software. And so it really minimizes their investment. The second thing I think is leadership. And it's a leadership issue from the very top on down. We often have teams of people running these projects and they report back on the projects, but who's really making sure that we're not trying to bring forward the old ways of doing business that might have been in place because the system couldn't handle it, or this system had an odd way of handling something, so we made a workaround, or we tried to digitize something, so we layered another technology on it. And when you begin to unravel that and say, how do we really want to do business, particularly in a modern world that we're in today, that risk is different, customer expectations are different, products have to be different, we have to really kind of get out of that internal mindset of, this is how insurance is always done. No, we can do it differently. We can do it better. And we can do it more effectively. And then I'd say the third piece is it's the age-old IT versus business divide, Adam, because today's technology is all up in the cloud and it's much more business driven than it is IT driven. Yes, IT has to be involved, but they're not necessarily running the systems because they're up in the cloud. They have less of the need to really kind of focus in on the architecture, the infrastructure and stuff. And so sometimes interpreting what it is that the business really wants, we're not necessarily really doing that interpretation and in that partnership with whatever the software vendors like ourselves are. And so that IT business divide, business, I think, is so far out, really understanding the changes in the market. And I don't necessarily see IT always on board with where those changes are. So those are the three reasons I'd give, Adam.
Yeah, I'll start with your last one. And I'd say, we're seeing it more and more pronounced now. Right. And I would say the reason we're seeing more pressure probably in those disconnects between the business and IT is, look, the insurance industry is under enormous pressure over the last year. Right. Mm-hmm. And, as much as there are tons of technology challenges, so I'm not saying that the technology organizations don't feel pressure too. Whenever there's business pressure on driving revenue growth or profitability or all those elements, it creates more pressure. So I think for the business, they're feeling more pressure, which is making some of those disconnects more acute. And it's interesting because we talk to customers all the time who said, well, I assume you've done this before. And our answer is like, we've done it thousands of times before. And they're like, well, then why is it like this? And I'm like, it's like this because you have a unique business and you value that uniqueness above many other things. So it tends to be very cultural, like you said, having people say, well, what's more valuable? Is speed to market and simplicity and automation more valuable than that? And that's the tricky part with risk. Even some customers, we were working on a product and, they had a very unique quote for one, it was a commercial product. So obviously it's one policy, but worth a lot of money for this company. And they wanted to do exactly what the customer asked. It couldn't be further out of the box. But the question is, I understand why you wanted to win this one customer, but it won't scale because it's literally a system for one. It doesn't scale and it's unrealistic to expect you can have millions of versions of the same product across all your customers. And that becomes a real trick with technology that all the AI and advanced technology in the world won't solve for that many unique requirements under one system.
I think it also goes back to really understanding your business strategy, Adam, as an insurance organization. What really is going to be your competitive advantage? What are the things that you are really going to compete on? You're not going to compete on a workflow. You're not going to necessarily compete on a technology. What you're going to compete on is your products that you bring to market, how you underwrite those products, and your channels that you're selling them through. And yes, ultimately your customer service, but those are the things that you're going to compete on because that's the reason why people buy your products. It's a good product. It's going to meet the needs. It's a well-priced product, and it's through a channel that customers trust. And so it goes back to really making sure that what you're going to compete on are going to be those things. The rest of the stuff is all really table stakes. And most everybody will pretty much do the same type of thing. How you have to differentiate yourself in the market is ultimately going to come down to that, but then it's also going to come down to how well you are operationally optimized so that your costs of running your business are much more cost effective, that your unit costs and your loss costs. All of those costs are much lower because that goes into the pricing of the product, which makes you more competitive. So the less customization you do and the ability to be able to upgrade more, that's going to actually have a total cost of ownership that is far less, that makes you much more competitive in the marketplace going forward. And it's simple math, Adam. It's kind of funny that a lot of people don't always look at it that way.
No, I totally agree. Years ago, I worked with an insurance company, and albeit I was focused on the infrastructure side, but it aligns really well to what you just said, Denise, because the head there said, look, I want to optimize as much as I can what are tasks that he would consider chores, things you have to do, operational hygiene, simple things. And what he really wanted to do is invest his money into the core things, right, that would drive the business performance. And I think to your point, when you try to separate what's a chore and a core, there are a lot of things that people say were secret sauce, where I would say there's no way that's secret sauce. Everyone needs to run a batch job and everyone needs to send out an invoice. There's certain things are not secret sauce. They are core to what every company has to do, or it's a chore that every company has to do, and you should automate it, you should standardize it, and you should do it for a very low cost so you can focus your energy on what is really going to drive the business result. And I do see when we look at some of these businesses and try to align the technology, I would say in many cases we're spending energy, time, and money trying to customize things that are not unique whatsoever and are fundamental. And then as a result, not focusing on the energy on the things that will really drive the business result. So I think you're right, Denise. And I think, part of this challenge is we've always done it this way. So many things were co-mingled that companies are having a hard time separating where is the line between what is really a secret sauce or makes your business unique and what honestly every company in the world does, and it's not unique.
Well, I think there's another factor too that is really impacting how insurance companies are operationally thinking about their new next gen core systems that are in the cloud. Most of them had those systems for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years, Adam. And if they upgraded them, even if they had a modern solution that they installed maybe 10, 15 years ago, now they want to be up in the cloud, they didn't upgrade those systems maybe every 2 or 3 years at most, sometimes maybe not for 5 or 10 years. Today's pace of technology and the pace of data and the pace of analytics and the pace of being able to leverage this stuff to really impact the business is so much different than it was 5 years ago, and especially 10 years ago. So we think, how do we install these solutions into the business? We don't want to create that customization because we want to have those upgrades, because the technology, we want to take advantage of that. By doing that, you have less of a need to reconsider ripping and replacing that technology in 5 or 10 years. If you've got a baseline that you can actually upgrade on a every couple of months basis with all the new capabilities that are coming, that's going to keep you at the leading edge of technology and with the technology advancements that are going on that can really empower the business. And that's a big mindset to change, especially for IT, Adam, because they were used to, oh, we got to think about an upgrade. This is going to be a year-long project for every 3 or 5 years. No, we have to move beyond that thinking as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so look, all this comes together with the theme of just saying no. So it's not saying no for the sake of no. It's saying no to, we need to say no to certain elements that are really the back end chores of what people need to do, so we can refocus the energy on the core that will drive the business. So no one wants to hear no. It shouldn't be just no. It should be no, but we can do this. And more importantly, we have to figure out how we can all be honest about what we should not be doing to adjust or try to bring forward some of these legacy processes in business so we can focus on what can move the business forward. But it takes technology, takes culture. It's going to take some process change, but I think it's something we all need to consider when we're ever looking at a request of how we do something. I think we got to step back and be more honest with ourselves about saying no to the right things.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Denise. Appreciate it. And have a great day.
You too.
That's it for this week's episode of Future of Insurance Industry Leaders podcast. Subscribe to our market-leading podcast series available wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in the next time.